So we'll get started down seated on the mat today. It's a slightly shorter class, between 40 to 45 minutes. So we'll start in a seated position and then we'll end lying down on our backs. And so if it's okay, start in seated cross-legged. If seated cross-legged doesn't work for you, then just take a seated pose with your legs outstretched. You can always sit in a chair because you're practicing at home, whatever works best for you. And close your eyes. And let's start to really bring our attention to our bodies, to where we are in space. See any sounds that might be around you. Maybe like me, you have the sounds of birds. Maybe there are other sounds you can be aware of. But the attention to those sounds, rather than distracting you from being present, they're more to ground you into where you are. And we're just going to release away from them and come a little closer to our center. We're going to notice our breath. So if it feels okay today, breathing through your nose. And if it feels okay, taking that ujjayi breath, the breath with a little bit of sound at the base of your throat. But we can come to that as we practice. We don't need to start. From here, let's take an inhale and reach our arms up overhead. Let's bring our fingers together and turn our hands inside out. And we're just going to take a little turn and a little lean. And it really is quite mild, just looking over to the side, stretching up through the side of your body, along through under your arm, up along your bicep, your tricep, and then coming back to center. We're just going to turn that gaze out the other way. Yeah, so as you turn that gaze, you're just taking a little twist, but it really is quite mild. I don't want you straightening your back. Just notice how when you breathe that this makes this pose a little stronger, and then it releases from the pose a little. And then releasing those hands back down. From here, we're going to bring our palms towards the ceiling. We're going to reach them back overhead again, but this time we're going to press our palms together. Yeah, so do what you need to. Do you need to bend your elbows a little to press those palms nice and firmly? Can you extend those arms out long? You need to bend your elbows quite a bit. Just exploring, seeing how that's feeling for you. Now, how is this when we bring those hands behind us and rest the heels of the palms to the back of the head and just apply a little bit of pressure? Yeah, not so much that you're going to hurt your neck, just enough pressure that you're contracting your arms a little, firing up the shoulders, waking up the shoulders. And then we're reaching those arms back up again. We're going to turn our palms towards the floor. We're going to reach those arms out long. We're just waking up the muscles of our arms. We won't be here for too long, but we're going to roll circles with our arms. Now roll those circles backwards. Now reaching your hands towards the back of your body. And as you reach back, can you fire up the muscles between your shoulder blades? Can you get the muscles of your back involved with this movement? Because sometimes we use the muscles of our arms and we kind of let other muscles soften and release. Can we get them involved? Can you make those circles a little bigger, but keep your arms nice and straight and long, really outstretching through your fingers? That's it. And then let's come back to center just for a moment, and then we're going to roll those circles forwards. Now, exploring what muscles are being used to roll your arms forwards, and you're probably a little bit more aware of them now because they're starting to sing a little bit. Yeah, right along the top of your shoulders there. Some of the muscles through your chest, can you fire them up a little as you move? That's it. Remember, I said we're not here for long, right? So we're going to touch those hands down to our knees. And rather than shrugging, just let your shoulders soften. But we're going to keep that heat in the shoulders because now we're going to come and move through some shoulder stretches. So you can bring your left arm out in front of your face, palm to the side. We're going to sweep our right elbow underneath. Now you might be able to hook that elbow right under, it might not be there. We're going to bring fingertips to palm and we're going to lift those palms away. Right, so because I spent the last 2 days painting the outside of my house, this is quite a strong stretch across the shoulders. And sometimes we're not quite as aware of that unless we've been really working the muscles, unless they're quite tight. But that stretch is happening. We're just going to maybe lift the arms a little, draw them a little further away, just whatever feels okay. Notice your breath. Notice your connection to the floor. Just another couple of breaths here, exploring the shoulder stretch. Right, that's all we're doing. We're not failing or succeeding. We're just exploring the movements of our shoulder. And then let's release. Let's draw those hands back out. We're going to reach those hands back out to the sides, palms towards the front, and then let's rotate those palms towards the ceiling. Yeah. And can you lower those fingertips down towards the floor with that extension? That's it. And then can you glide those hands back up again, maybe pressing your palms together. Wonderful. Let's touch those hands down to the knees. We're going to bring the right elbow in front of the face, palm to the side. We're going to sweep the other arm underneath again, maybe elbow to elbow, maybe it's not quite reaching there. Just do what you can. If you can, fingertips to palm, right? As though you're clapping your hands and lifting those hands away, drawing them a little further away if that feels okay. Let's notice that breath again. Now with that Ujjayi breath, we're breathing through the nose. And as we inhale, we're feeling that lovely inflation, that filling of the lungs, the rib cavity expands. Yeah, and then as we exhale, there's that squeezing lift, which engages our pelvic floor and supports us in our lovely rising up away from the earth. And notice with that lovely full inhale that you do feel that expansion across the rib cavity, and that does expand your shoulders a little, right? So we feel that stretch a little more fully. And as we exhale, it softens away slightly. Let's reach those arms out again, palms towards the ceiling. Lower those fingertips down towards the floor. That's it. And then hands to the knees. Let's let those shoulders soften. Now remember, we're not trying to force anything, okay? So whatever works, works. Whatever is a challenge is a challenge. We're going to reach that left arm up, and we're going to just glide the back of the hand up the back. Yeah, and then we're just going to open across the shoulders a little, finding that stretch through the left shoulder. Now you can stay just here like this if you like, or you might want to reach that right arm up and over and just draw that hand down the back. They don't need to be connected, but they might start, your fingers might start creeping towards each other. Again, let's come into that breath. And then we're reaching those hands out nice and wide, palms towards the floor this time. Yeah, and then we're going to reach the right hand up the back. Now you can either rest that left hand down on your knee, or you can reach it up and over. And again, we're just going to explore the space across the shoulders. Yeah, particularly the front of the shoulder, right? That front portion of your shoulder with that arm reaching back behind you. But also we have a nice stretch along through the tricep of the opposite arm. And we're staying here for quite a few breaths, right? They're those nice, full, even breaths. And it's these stretches where I find that it's quite obvious that one side is more solid than the other. Yeah. And so one side has become more solid to support my more flexible side. Once again, we're going to release those hands. We're going to reach them out wide, palms towards the ceiling. Yeah, and then hands down to the knees. We're going to get some movement going through the spine, but we're going to come over to hands and knees for that. And we're just going to press down into our hands and just ease some of that stretching. Right? We're going to counter a little bit of that stretching with a bit of contraction. So let's press those hands down to the floor. Imagine we can squeeze them a little closer towards each other down the center of the body. And then on an exhale, I'd love you to coil under, bringing your gaze down low, maybe towards just between your knees, maybe not that far. And then as you inhale, lifting your gaze, lifting your tail, extending into cow pose. Yeah, so let's move through that again. As you exhale, coiling everything under, drawing into your cat. And then as you inhale, rocking back into your cow pose. The whole time you can be squeezing your knees a little towards each other, not moving them on the mat, just creating that tension through your thighs. And the same thing can be happening with your arms. Notice what's happening for your back. You don't want to press too far. Just really exploring the movements of our bodies. Exploring as well the length of our breath, because we're starting that breath a little before the movement. We're ending that breath a little after the movement. The movement is wrapped up in the breath. Within our practice today, we're going to have that attention to the hips and the shoulders, and also the attention to the movement of the spine. So now we're going to come into a neutral position. We're going to wag our tail. So we're going to just move our hips over to the left and bring our gaze in that direction. Yeah. And then we're going to move our hips over to the right and bring our gaze in that direction. And again, we're going to move our hips over to the left and bring our gaze in that direction. And then we're going to move our hips over to the right and bring our gaze in that direction. Let's come back to center and extend that left leg out long behind you. And then exhale and squeeze that left knee towards your belly. Draw your nose towards your knee as well. As you inhale, let's reach that left leg back out behind us. And then as you exhale, draw that knee towards the back of your left arm, and you can bring that gaze in that direction as well. As you inhale, that leg back behind you. And as you exhale, squeeze that knee towards your nose. This time, step that foot through between your hands. Yeah, we're going to sweep those hands towards the sky. And if it feels okay, you might want to reach your arms, or you might want to have your hands in front of your heart space, and we're just lifting up and away through that nice stretch through the right side. Yeah. We're going to stay here for a couple more breaths. If you like, you can tuck those right toes under, lift that right knee, and again, maybe explore lifting those hands. Really pressing that right heel away to get that lovely stretch down the back of your right leg. And from here, we're going to ground down through the outer edge of the right foot. Adjust your feet as you need to. Sweep those arms out wide. Let's come to our warrior two, squaring that sternum towards the side of your mat. Yeah, finding that space between the shoulder blades again. And pressing down into your big toes. Can you find that pressure down into your big toes? And then can you press down into your little toes? And then can you find that evenly weighted across the feet? That's it. We're going to sweep our right hand forward so that now we come to our warrior one. Yeah, keeping that left knee over your ankle, that's the one. And then we're going to swivel forwards again so that we're back in our lunge. And from here, a nice movement, we're going to take pressing into the left foot and sweeping forwards into our warrior three. Now you can have your hands reaching back behind you if you like. Like little jet plane wings. Or you can have them extending out front. I really like having my hands in front of my heart space in prayer. Maybe I need to challenge that a little. And then let's pop that right foot back behind us. We're going to lower hands down to the floor. We're going to step back into downward facing dog. Now, even though the instruction is not with each movement, right? I'm not, hey, inhale this, exhale that. I do want you to be breathing nice and full, nice and steady and evenly throughout our practice. And if possible, I'd love it to be the Ujjayi breath. Now we can play around a little in our down dog here, so we can draw our heels down to the floor, or we can soften our knees and press into the palms a little, just exploring what happens through the body when we take each movement. And then let's lower those knees down to the ground, back into our hands and knees position. Wonderful. We're going to reach that right leg out behind us. And then we're going to squeeze that knee towards our nose and our nose towards our knee. Now this links really nicely with the breath. So we can inhale, reach that right leg back behind us. And then we can exhale, squeeze that knee towards the outside of the right arm, bringing our gaze over towards it. We can reach that right leg back behind us on the inhale. And then we can squeeze that knee towards our nose towards our knee on the exhale and step that right foot. And maybe it feels okay to sweep those hands up high. Exploring this extension through the left hip. Now you might prefer to have your hands in front of your heart space in prayer, so be there if you prefer that. But we're finding that lovely length down the left-hand side, really driving, reaching up through that rib cage. Try not to compress too much through the back of your body and stay nice and strong. Now you can stay right here for a few more breaths, or you can tuck those left toes under and lift that left knee. Now if you've lifted that left knee, you might want to sweep those hands up again. If you're there, just finding that extension. Now, it's okay to choose not to take certain movements, right? You want to do whatever works best for your body. It may mean that you need to just step up a little, taking an extra movement as you come into a pose, because from here, we ground down through the outer edge of the left foot and we sweep our hands out wide. So if your knee was still down on the ground, you're just going to come up into your warrior two, starting to spiral that sternum towards the side of your mat. Finding the strength between the shoulder blades, yeah. And again, finding that pressure down into the floor. So can you find your big toe? Can you find your little toe? And then can you find that nice pressure down into all the edges of your feet? And then we're going to glide that left hand forward so that we come to our warrior one. Just for a breath as we press down towards the floor, and then we spiral again into our lunge. Yeah, and then from here, you can see if you can just lift that left leg up behind you, coming into warrior three. Remember, it's okay if you want to reach those hands back behind you into little jet wings, or have your hands in front of your heart space in prayer. So just take whichever works best for you in this pose. And then let's pop that foot back down on the floor, hands down to the ground. We're going to step back into our downward facing dog. All those different explorations again in your down dog, right? Things might have changed a little. How is it feeling? Now, how are your arms feeling? Your shoulders, your wrists, your elbows feeling okay? Let's really press down into the hands. And then if you like, if it feels okay, lift up your right hand and just reach across to the outside of your left calf. Taking a little twist out towards the left-hand side, only if it feels okay, right? We're going to keep that nice, powerful pressing down into the left hand. And then we're going to come back to center, pressing that right hand down to the floor. Again, only if it feels okay. You're going to reach that left hand around and just get hold of the outer edge of your right foot, or your right calf, sorry. And I suppose to really bring some attention to your breath. And then let's come back to our down dog. From down dog, we're going to come into a kneeling position. Now, I know kneeling is not a position for everybody. And so if it's not a position you're taking at the moment, you just want to come into a seated position. Okay? Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to lower our knees down, and then we're going to rock back into a kneeling position. Again, a blanket can be really nice to use to support you in your kneeling position. Just maybe pop it between your calves and your sit bones. We're staying here for another breath. And if you are in a kneeling position, it's a nice pose to hold on to. But it's okay if it's not for you anymore as well. And then we're going to turn this pose, whichever pose you've taken, into a squat. Yeah, so kneeling, you might be able to just rock over the feet into squat. If you're in a seated pose, it might take more of a coming to stand than coming into squat. But just finding that connection of your feet down towards the floor, rolling those shoulders back and down a little, finding that strength through your belly, lifting up. And lifting up because we've got that nice line of energy that runs from the tail to the crown of the head rather than any collapse. We're rising up, pressing our elbows towards the inside of the knees. And then from here, we're going to come up onto the tiptoes and we're going to rest our elbows on top of our thighs. Now, if you've had any plantar issues, plantar fasciitis, anything going on like that, I don't want you on tiptoes. You know, I just want your feet flat. I want you to make sure anytime you feel pain, you just stop doing what you're doing. Let's reach our hands out wide and rise all the way up to stand. Maybe you can stay up on those tiptoes. How's the angle of your pelvis in this pose? Can you be aware of that? And then lowering those heels back down to the floor, hands down beside you. We're going to inhale, sweep our hands back towards the sky and lift our gaze. And then we're going to exhale all the way back down into squat. So just as far as you can go in squat is all good. Yeah. And if you're right down low, then I then want you to engage and lift through the body, acknowledging that the back of your head is the curve of your spine. Yeah. Now this time, we're not going to come up onto the tiptoes. So we're going to rest those elbows just above our knees. We're going to engage the belly so that we're not collapsing through the low back. Yeah, just that little difference there. And then we're going to again sweep our hands out wide on an inhale and rise up to stand. But this time we're just going to keep our feet flat. And then hands down into prayer in front of your heart space. Now we set up quite nicely for a little warrior stance with those feet. So we're going to press our weight into the left foot. And we're going to step forwards again with the right foot into warrior. But we're going to rock a little longer in our warrior one. So we're going to just spiral our sternum towards the front, lifting those hands, pressing down into the soles of the feet. That's it. And then let's take a little lean forwards, extending out long, finding that pressure down into the soles of the feet, and then hands down to the floor. We're going to step that right foot up behind us into standing split. Now, naturally, we're going to flare that left hip. So we're just going to angle that down a little. Just a little. There will still be a natural flaring of your left hip. That's it, and then let's step that left foot back behind us and step the right foot back into our downward facing dog. This time we're going to come into squat from downward facing dog, so we're going to creep those hands back to our feet. We're going to turn those toes out, and then we're just going to rest our elbows on top of our thighs. Yeah, so we're going to keep those feet flat, strong through your belly, notice your breath. And then as you inhale, rising up, reaching those hands up nice and high, nice and strong. That's it. And we're going to draw those hands down into prayer in front of our heart space, and we're going to take a few breaths. And then we rock our weight over into that right foot. We step our left foot forwards with as much control as possible. Soundlessly as possible is usually a good way to see if you've got some control over that movement. Pressing down into the soles of the feet. Again, we're going to rock out our warrior one for a little while. Yeah, so we're going to glide those hands. We're going to press down into the feet, finding that connection to the floor, finding that lifting, rising back up away again, using that yielding down towards the earth to encourage that rising back and away with your energy. And this time we're going to turn it again into that standing split. Yeah, so we're going to bring those hands down towards the floor. We're going to lift that right leg up behind us. That natural tendency will probably be to stack that right hip on top of the left. So you're just going to draw it down a little. We're going to let there be that natural flaring. Yeah, but we're just going to explore where our standing split is today. Once again, let's step that right foot back. We're going to bring the left foot back as well, back into our downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, we're going to creep our hands back to our feet. We're going to come to forward fold at the back of our mats. So in your forward fold, knees bend, belly connects with your thighs, softening and releasing down. Now, I know that whatever your body shape, that instruction is going to be a little different either way. But what I want there to be that connection. But it's like a pressing, a sandwiching, right? A squeezing towards each other with belly and thighs. Because in that way, it encourages you to bend your knees a little. And as it encourages you to bend your knees a little, it really releases your back down over your legs rather than having you in a halfway lift pose. We're staying here for a few more breaths, and I want you to find that connection down into your feet. Yeah, connecting down to the floor. And then from there, we're going to inhale, rise up to halfway lift. We're going to exhale back down into forward fold. Let's really connect some movements with the breath now. We're going to inhale, rise up to awkward chair. We're going to exhale, rise up to stand, hands draw down. That's it. We're going to inhale, hands towards the sky, lift our gaze. And then we're going to exhale, swan dive forwards into forward fold again. Let's come through all of that again to really connect with the breath. Inhale, rise to halfway lift. Exhale back down into forward fold, breathing through your nose. Let's inhale, rise up to awkward chair. And with the exhale, our hands draw down as we rise up to stand. That's it. We're going to inhale, sweep our hands towards the sky and lift our gaze. And we're going to exhale, swan dive forwards into forward fold. Now this time as you inhale, I want you to lift your gaze a little. And as you exhale, I want you to walk your hands forward so that you're in downward facing dog. Let's inhale again, lift our gaze. And then let's exhale and roll our shoulders over our wrists. We're really going to set this pose up in our plank pose. Let's inhale and stay just here. Now as you exhale, if you need to, I want you to lower your knees. Otherwise, I want you to stay here nice and strong. That's it. Let's inhale deeply. And this time as you exhale, lower down towards the floor. Untuck your toes. And inhale, lift to cobra. Let's keep that breath connection going. We're going to exhale, staying in cobra, but grounding down through the low belly. And then as you inhale, you lengthen and lift away a little. One more of those. So as you exhale, you ground down through the low belly. And as you inhale, you lift and extend away a little. Let's exhale, softening down towards the floor, really connect down into your palms. And then inhale, come up to hands and knees. We're going to exhale, resting back into our child's pose, but we're just going to float through a couple of times. So we're going to inhale back up to hands and knees. And then we're going to exhale back to downward facing dog. Our inhale brings us to hands and knees. And our exhale takes us back to child's pose. Right, so we're going to do that movement a couple more times. Our inhale brings us to hands and knees. That's it, and your exhale takes you back to downward facing dog. Nice and slow and steady as you inhale back to hands and knees. And as you exhale back to child's pose. One more round through to end in child's pose. Yeah, nice and slow and steady as you inhale, come up to hands and knees. If you're moving quickly, it's saying something about your breath. As you exhale back to downward facing dog. As you inhale back to hands and knees, maintain that steady breath. As you exhale back to child's pose, stay here. But as you inhale, feel that expansion of your belly. And as you exhale, feel that squeezing lift through your pelvic floor. Breathing through your nose. As you inhale, feel that expansion of your ribcage. And as you exhale, feel that squeezing lift, that strength through your belly. That's it. Let's take that one more time. As you inhale, feeling that expansion through your body. And as you exhale, feel that squeezing lift as you release back out again. Let's inhale back up to hands and knees. And then let's exhale around to seated. Seated cross-legged. Let's inhale, sweep those hands towards the sky. It's okay if it takes a couple of breaths to get here. We're going to pause. And then we're going to exhale and fold forwards over our legs. We're staying here for a few breaths, just really exploring the stretch of our hips. So the inhale lets you lift a little. And the exhale softens you down. Now, just like before, if cross-legged is not a pose that you're taking, then take a seated pose and use this as a seated forward fold. Or if you still want to have a hip stretch, then you can take that pose where you lie on your back, put your ankle on top of your opposite thigh, and just take your knees towards you. But let's come into that in a minute anyway. We'll get an opportunity to stretch our hips. I would suspect that if cross-legged is not working for you very well, then that pose is probably not going to be very beneficial for you either. Just noticing your breath as we've really worked or place some attention on bringing it to that steady rhythm. Let's not call it mahi, let's call it attention. And then let's bring ourselves back up to seated. Now we're going to change the cross of our legs. So if you're in half lotus, the other leg is to the top. If you're in cross-legged with one leg stacked in front of the other leg stacked in front of the, to the front. Otherwise, one leg over the top is a good, right? Whatever it is. But we're just changing the position of the legs. There is a different position. And then we're going to again take that fold forwards over the legs, exploring that seated cross-legged pose. Now, if you were in a seated stretch, there was a forward fold without the legs crossed, then maybe you want to take another seated stretch. So maybe you go from a wide-legged stretch to a legs together stretch. But wherever you are, noticing your breath, because we did get that attention to it, to get it long and steady, and we're going to maintain that as you inhale. We feel that lifting, that rise, that beautiful nurturing of the cells, and as you exhale, you feel that you can release anything that doesn't serve you out into the world. As you inhale, you feel that nourishment, that nurture of all of your cells. And as you exhale, you release anything that doesn't serve you out into the world. And again, as you inhale, you feel that nurture, that nourishment, drawing in all of that good stuff. And as you exhale, just releasing anything that doesn't serve you. And then let's rise back up to seated. Taking a nice little stretch of our hips. We're going to extend our legs out long. And we're going to see how it feels to just fold forwards over our legs here. Yeah, so how is that breath now? Can you feel it as you inhale? Can you feel that lengthening, that rising up away from your legs? And as you exhale, that squeezing, that release as though you're in the ocean crashing over the tide of the legs, right? Let's continue that breath. Maybe more and more we're finding that release down the back of our legs. We're finding that ability to soften down. It's resisting that temptation to really surrender your head. It's more of a surrendering of your belly down towards the earth, of your sternum down towards the earth, your heart space. Let's rise back up to seated. And from seated, we're going to extend our legs out wide. And we're going to take that seated fold with the legs extended. Some might give you a little bit more space, or you might find that there's some tension there down the back. That's it. How's that breath? It's good to be breathing nice and full, right? Let's really maintain that. Keeping your mind here in your practice, keeping your mind here with me. That's it. I know that sometimes these are the moments where your mind can get a little busy. So remembering that you're just where you need to be, right here in this breath. Let's come back up to seated. And from here, we're just going to make our way down to the floor. We're going to roll over onto our side. Put something warm down there if you need to. Get your warm clothes on if you need to, because we won't be coming back up again until after Shavasana. Yeah, but just as I promised, we're going to bring the soles of our feet down and we're going to lift our foot and place our ankle on top of our thigh. It doesn't matter which foot you go with first. Now you might stay just here, particularly if cross-legged wasn't a pose that felt okay. I don't want you to go much further than this, if at all. Otherwise, you might want to wrap your hands around your opposite thigh and hug it in towards you. Yeah, keep those feet flexed. That's going to keep your knees nice and stable. But do find a little softness. Where can you find that softness? Is that across the muscles of your face? Now your arms are supporting you, so there is some tension in the shoulders, but sometimes we hold a whole lot more tension there than we need. So let's soften and release when we can across our shoulders. Finding the floor underneath us, really releasing and letting go. Then let's come across to the other side, touching the sole of that foot down to the floor. Other ankle on top of your thigh. We're going to reach our hands around the thigh if you can. Yeah, but remember, if cross-legged was hard for you, then this is not going to be beneficial for you to pull in the leg closer. And just release. Releasing any expectation, showing some compassion and kindness to your body. You know, allowing there to be softness in your body rather than holding tension where it doesn't need to be. And be here within this breath. And then we're going to release that leg, but we're going to take hold of both our knees and give them a squeeze. Give yourself a little hug. Know that you're okay. You're more than okay. You're powerful, you're strong, you're abundant, and you're just as you should be. So know that. And everything is just as it should be. It couldn't be any other way, so know that. Let's touch our feet down to the floor. Now, if it feels okay, you're going to extend your legs out long. Otherwise, you're going to pop a rolled up blanket or something underneath the back of your knees. And you're just going to rest your hands down beside you. Maybe shrug those shoulders a little closer together and then just let them relax. Maybe tuck your chin towards your chest and then just let your head relax. Soft. Releasing down towards the earth. Close your eyes. Connect to your breath. Your breath is moving slowly and steadily, but it's returning to its own natural rhythm, whatever that is. And as you breathe, you release and you relax. You're aware of your connection to the earth. And you soften. And as you become aware of your connection to the earth, you understand that the earth holds and supports you. You can relax and release. You surrender even your attention to your breath. You surrender even your attention to your body. You soften completely. Releasing and relaxing, surrendering to Shavasana. Noticing your body, noticing your connection to the earth. Give yourself permission to stay here a little longer if you need to today. Otherwise, starting to generate a little movement. Maybe it's just the awareness of your breath. Maybe it's a big inhale and a sigh out through the mouth. And then that movement gets a little more powerful, a little bigger. Just going to take a stretch. And then generating enough movement that you can roll over onto your side. And from your side, when you're ready, pressing yourself up into a seated position. Once you get here to the seated position, we're going to take our affirmations together. So we'll take 3 affirmations today. Those affirmations are going to be based around both our power and our compassion. Yeah, because it's one thing to be compassionate, it's another thing to be courageous and compassionate. And both of those things are worthy and wonderful, and you have them inside of you. So I'm going to say the affirmation, and you're going to repeat it back with conviction. You're ready. I am compassionate. I am wise. I am powerful. Namaste.